It's another perfect morning. We come in for the topic of functions of management. So already we had covered the first and the second function, that is planning and organizing. So now we are moving to the third function and the fourth. So the third one being staffing. Then we'll be looking at the fourth and fifth being controlling and directing. So for now, let's look at staffing. Staffing from the word staff. So who can be able to tell us what staffing means from the word staff? So staffing is all about getting the right people in the entity, filling and keeping filled the positions in the organizational structure. Remember that yesterday we talked about organizational structures. Do you remember any organizational structure? Irene and Rose, any organizational structure? We have the functional, matrix, divisional. Remember we talked about
Functional.
So filling now and keeping filled the positions in that organizational structure, we use staffing, getting the right people for those positions in an organizational structure. So why do we carry out staffing? Why do we get the right people in the entity? So it helps you to do what? Discover and obtain competent personnel for various jobs. If it's the accountants you are looking for, you will get the right people for that position. Optimum utilization of human resources. Once we do staffing, there will be optimum utilization of the Then we talk about developing professionals in every field of the organizational activity. Developing professionals helps to improve quantity and the quality of the output. It improves the quantity and the quality of the output by putting the right person on the right job. Because if it's a person who is specialized in marketing, then you have gone ahead to put him under marketing. That is okay. If it's accounting, a person who is an accountant is put under under the accounting department. So doing that, obviously, it will improve the quantity and the quality of the output in the entity. Then it helps in developing competencies in the organization to face the challenges. So it will develop competency. It improves job satisfaction because once you, as an employee, once you will be doing the job you are good at, you will be satisfied. Improve job satisfaction. There will be high productivity, and it reduces the cost of manpower by eliminating wastage. Because now we will not be using the human resource in a bad way. The human resource will be used as required. And it provides the development of employees. Provides development of employees. So here we have the process, we have the steps in the process of staffing function. So now, how do you feel the positions in the organizational structure? So you have to do manpower planning. Who do you need? If it's an accountant, so manpower planning, then you recruit. Once you recruit, you select. These are steps which one precedes another. So manpower planning, you recruit, you select. Once you have selected, you have to orient, your placement and orientation. Then training is very important, development. Then give promotions, transfer to avoid familiarities and other issues, appraisal. Then we have remuneration. You have to remunerate. You have to remunerate. Those are steps. Those are steps. Those are the steps. So we can explain one by one, starting from manpower planning. starting from the manpower planning. It's the estimation of the required manpower. You have to say, for example, if it was an accountant you need, is it a senior or a junior, or you are just doing an entry position? So estimation of the required manpower, keeping in view the present and the future needs of the organization, keeping in view the present and the future needs of the organization. Then we have what we call recruitment. These are positive process of searching for the prospective employees. It's a positive process of searching for the prospective employees and stimulating them to apply for the jobs in the organization. So it's the process to attract maximum number of applicants so as to have more options for selection. You find adverts whereby you are told that apply for this and this, or sometimes we can do internal recruitment. So after recruitment selection, there is the process of eliminating the candidates who appear unpromising for the post. Obviously, go for the best among the application pool. But with Kenya, does that one happen? You would find that the unpromising is the one who is getting the job. So placement and orientation, or anyway, for serious companies, obviously, they get the best candidates among the application pools. Placement and orientation, placement and orientation. So the placement and orientation. Placement and orientation. So placement and orientation, placement and orientation. So placement means putting the appointed employees on the job for which he is selected. So orientation is now the introduction of the appointed employees with the job. So once you have done placement, putting the appointed employees on the job for which you are selected, then now orientation, remember that you have to be introduced of what you are supposed to do. Yes, that is why once you are placed, you have to be oriented to the entity. So orientation is the introduction of the appointed employee with the job. So he's made familiar with the work units and the work environment through the orientation programs, through the orientation programs, through the orientation programs. So we have recruitment phases, selection. Recruitment phases, selection. So fetch from the pool. So once the recruitment is done, remember that you have to get the person who is promising, and then unpromising, you don't take. That is why you can say, we can see they are saying that yet a pool of people, that is a recruitment. Once an advert, once an advert, once an advert has been put across, people apply. People applies. So once many people will apply, then now you have to do selection, getting the most promising candidates among the pool of people. Then after that, you do training after placement and orientation. Doing training is very good. So after appointment of an employee, the most important and established part of the personnel program is to impart training to the newcomer. So with the rapid technological changes, the need for training employees being increased. It is being increasingly recognized so as to keep the employee in touch with the new developments. Like now, if it's an accountant, that is why your employee is supposed to be attending trainings. Like now, we have workshops with this bank whereby they train people. The company can pay for that. You will be able to be fast with current issues in the accounting world, so training. So development, so the process of development is for preparing the employee for a variety of jobs, So it widens their outlook and enhance their conceptual ideas. So it opens promotion avenues for them. And it thus provides for their growth in the organization. So never stay at one position for many years. So at least as an employer, make sure that there's development for your employee. At least if he was at a lower position, after some time, make sure that you develop him to move ahead. So that is why we have promotions. So employers are upgrading of an employee to a higher position involve increase in rank, prestige, or status. Promotion can be given to employees in the same department in which they are working, or transferring them to different departments where similar job opportunities are available to them. Then also carry out transfers in the government. You can be transferred from one ministry to another. So it normally implies movement of the employee from one job to another without any increase in pay, status, or responsibilities. So usually employees are transferred to different work units and branches of the organization. So normally transfer takes place between jobs, paying approximately the same salary, but sometimes employees are also transferred during their promotion. So you can see how the processes are flowing, those steps. Then also there's this aspect of remuneration. It's a kind of compensation. So it can be in terms of monetary. So this is given according to the nature of the job, skilled or unskilled, physical or mental. Remuneration forms an important monetary initiative. So you have to make sure that employees are well remunerated. Then we have sources of recruitment. So we can recruit internally. That is recruiting from within the organization. We can do external. Now, before we go to external, what are the advantages of recruiting internally? Improve morale and motivation of employees. Improve the morale and the motivation of employees. So, better judgment of existing employees. Better judgment of the existing employees, because you understand better your employees. Increases a sense of security among employees. Employees will be feeling more secure if you do internal recruitment, and it promotes loyalty and commitment. It's cost effective. It doesn't cost a lot getting the right people from the internal organization, from the within the organization, that is internally. Because like now there's no things like orientation and other recruitment expenses. Even the time of recruitment is reduced. Employees, once you recruit internally, remember that these people are already familiar with the organization. They are already familiar with the entity. And improves the retention of talent, improves the retention of talent. So you have retained the people you have trained. So you have retained them. So what are some of the disadvantages? It may lead to breeding. What does that mean? People with the same culture and practices may contribute to organizational stagnation. So remember that once you rotate the same people in the entity, there will be no new ideas. So the organization will remain to be where it was. So it will stagnate. So it may lead to breeding. So here, there will be no change. There will be organizational stagnation. So number two, discourages inflow of new blood into the organization. Because now you have just recruited internally. So promotion is mostly based on seniority, and highly capable individuals may not be chosen. So you might find that there is a junior person who is very smart. But now remember that when we are recruiting, let's say we were recruiting a director for the entity, then we go to recruit a junior who is more competent. No. We will recruit an immediate person. So promotion is mostly based on seniority, and high capable individuals may not be chosen. So restrict choice of selection to smaller number. So chances of nepotism are high. All vacancies cannot be filled from within the organization because the number of people you can recruit, they are limited. So you cannot fill all of the vacancies internally. This method cannot be used by newly established organizations. Because for the newly established organization, you don't have employees to recruit internally. So it's not appropriate for the newly established organizations. Then internal sources may dry up, and it may be difficult to find the required personnel. So we talk about the external, now getting the employees from outside. So it refers to the supply of personnel or manpower from sources outside the organization. So which are these sources? The outside sources, which are some of the outside sources? New entrants to the labor market, like now fresh college graduates, the people are graduating from the colleges, the new entrants. The unemployed already in the labor market with a wide range of skills and ability. There are many people outside here who have the relevant skills, but they are not employed. So you can employ them. Retired experienced persons that who are already retired, who are more experienced, so they can be employed. Presently employed people from other organizations seeking to change their employment. At the same time, never stay in one organization for more than 2 years. So if it's possible, make a change from that organization after 2 years. What are the merits of external recruitment? So external recruitment, obvious, there would be a large pool of qualified candidates to choose from. So you have a large pool of candidates. Expertise and experience from other organizations can be brought in. So that is when you are recruiting people from other organizations. So the expertise from those other entities can be brought in. The sources, external sources can never dry up because we have many people graduating, for example, every year from universities. Most suitable when the candidates are not available from within. And when an organization is diversifying or expanding very fast, it's very important for that. Disadvantages, it's expensive way of recruiting because we have to incur a lot of cost, like advertisements and other processes which are going to incur, which are going to make us incur more cost. Time consuming, so a lot of time is taken. So employees may lose morale. So because the present employees may feel highly demoralized when they are not considered. So it's uncertain due to change in demand and supply of labor in the market, the labor market. Uncertain due to changes in the demand and supply labor in the labor market. So organizations depending on the labor market may be disappointed if they fail to find the required manpower. High cost of training for new employees. So it's costly in terms of training. We have to train them because they were not familiar with the entity. So now, next we talk about techniques of recruiting from external sources. The techniques. So prospective employees may be recruited from external sources through the following methods. So most of the organizations they do accept recommendations by present employees. A person who is recommended by an insider have a high chance of being recruited, being selected. That is, has a high chance of being selected. So this method is suitable for filling low unit positions, the entry positions. Unsolicited applications received from candidates who either call personally at the place of work asking for employment or write a rate of employment inquiry. Maintaining direct link with education institutions. Let's say some organizations also, they seek to get employees directly from education institutions, e.g. universities and training colleges, e.g. the universities and the training colleges. Government employment agencies. Now remember that the government employs through the Public Service Commission. We have TSC for teachers, etc. We have Parliamentary Service Commission if they are employing for the parliament. So recruit employees for the government. So those agencies, you can use the agencies for the external employment. We have various techniques to be followed. Recommendations and solicited applications, maintaining direct link with educational institutions and government employment agencies, e.g. the PSC and TSC, which is used to recruit employees for the government. Then others include using professional recruitment firms. We have many firms which are recruiting on behalf of various companies, e.g. the PricewaterhouseCoopers. We have Hawkins and many others, professional recruitment firms. Hiring at the gate, that's another technique. Hiring at the gate is a method particularly suitable for employing casual and unskilled laborer who present themselves at the company gates on a daily basis. I think you know what happens at the industrial area in Nairobi. Hiring at the gate. Some companies do that. They hire at the gate for their casuals on a daily basis. Advertising in the newspaper, trade channels, magazines, and internet. So this is the most preferred method of recruitment by many organizations. We can carry out head hunting, executive search, or poaching. So this is the method used to fill top or senior managerial positions. So the advocates of this method believes that best candidates are those who do not respond to advertisements or look for new other jobs in other ways, but those who are successful in their present jobs and are not thinking of moving elsewhere. So you poach. As the entity, you poach. So these are the people who doesn't do what? Look for jobs. So this method is used to fill top or senior managerial positions. There's this guy who was asking for the governorship of Nairobi. He's called who? After he was not successful, there's a company which took him for the top position. He was called the person who was.
He got it.
Yes, he got it. So these are the rights of Igade. So head hunting and executive search. They don't look for jobs. So The advocates of this method believe that the best candidates are those who do not respond to the advertisement or look for new other jobs in other ways, but those who are successful in their present jobs and are not thinking of moving elsewhere. So they get to be requested by companies to work for them. So selection procedures. So when we are doing selection, getting the right person, the promising candidates. So which procedure do we follow? We do screening and holding tests, selection interviews, checking references, medical examination of the candidates, issuing an appointment letter. We issue the appointment letter. So starting from the first one, screening the application, screening the application. So the selection procedure, number one. So when we do screening the application, what are we carrying out? It involves checking the content of the application so as to ascertain whether or not the minimum eligibility conditions in respect of age, experience, qualification, and skills are fulfilled by the candidates who have applied for the job. So remember that when an entity does recruitment, by doing, for example, advertising, they always say who they need. They can talk about the age, the experience of the person they need, the qualifications. So once we are doing selection now, those are some of the things we look at. So the purpose of screening, is to prepare a list of eligible candidates who are to be evaluated further. Candidates who are not eligible, they have excluded from the further consideration. Holding tests. These tests are made to discover and measure the skills and abilities of the candidates in terms of recruitment of the job. So holding tests. So to discover and measure the skills and abilities of the candidates in terms of the requirements of the job. So for instance, if the job of a typist requires minimum typing speed of 40 words per minute, a test is given to see whether the candidates applying for the job have the required typing speed. So passing the test by a candidate does not mean that he will be employed. It implies that all of those who have passed the test are qualified for further processing, and those who have failed are not to be considered. So you hold what? Test. After screening, you hold the test to check whether the person you need is the right person who has the right skills. Then selection interviews serves as a means of checking the information given in the application form. Means of checking the information given in the application form and making an overall assessment of the candidate's suitability for the job. In an interview, the candidate has a face-to-face interaction with the employer or representative of the employer, where they try to charge their ability. They try to do what? Check or charge the ability of the candidate. They also get an opportunity to go into the details of the candidate's background. That is why you are told to say who you are. So checking of references, checking of the references. So remember that sometimes the entities go ahead to do what? Contact to ensure that persons can be relied upon. So your references can be contacted. So in case of experienced employees, their previous employer can also be contacted. Your reference is very important. So sometimes you might not be getting a job because once your reference is called, it doesn't give positive view about yourself. Sometimes behave as if you are looking for a job and call your first reference. Ask him or her about yourself. Or you can use another person to call your reference and see the information which can be provided from that reference. So medical examination, candidates finally selected for the job are asked to undergo medical examination to see whether the selected candidates are physically fit for the job. There are some jobs whereby you have to do medical examination. Like now, the jobs which needs a lot of attention and, let's say, which needs you to be physically fit. Let's say if you are entering the army and so on, obviously you have to do a medical examination. So a proper medication examination ensure higher standards of health of the employee and their physical fitness, which in turn reduces labor turnover, absenteeism, and accidents. So medical examination could also reveal whether he or she suffers from any illness which can be cured, poor eyesight, etc. Medical test is essential for certain types of jobs, as in the case of police and army, where physical fitness is very important. For certain categories of jobs, like jobs of a driver, proper eyesight is very much essential. Yes, you cannot drive if you have a problem with your eyes. So issue of appointment letter, candidates finally selected are offered to join the organization for which a formal appointment letter is issued containing the nature of the job. So you are given a letter anyway. So let's recap about the selection process. So that is the recap from that picture. Using that recap of the selection process. Selection, the background information, interviews, performance test, physical test, paper and pencil test, then references. That marks the end of the staffing. So it's the end of staffing. So after staffing, I said we look at what? Another function. The last one. If you are keen, I said.
Controlling.
Yes, controlling function. So we'll be looking at controlling and directing at the same time. So meaning of and the importance of controlling, steps in the control process, types of control. We look at control for organization and employee performance, tools for measuring performance, essentials of an effective control system. So let's try and look for that in the next an hour or like 50 minutes. We'll make sure that we are done with that. So the last functions of management is what we call controlling, which I will look at controlling a bit and part of the directing will also be covered. So controlling and directing, controlling and directing. So controlling and directing functions of management. So when we do control, what are we doing? We measure actual performance against set standards, undertaking any corrective action. In the case of deviations from standards, remember that there's those standards which were set. So now, when we are doing controlling, we are measuring now the actual performance, the actual outcome against set standards. And if there was any deviation, if there was any deviation, that is, we take corrective action. We take the corrective action. Make sure that everything is okay according to the set standards. So steps in the controlling process. So setting standards. So what we need to be achieved. Measuring the level of actual performance. You measure the level of actual performance. So you compare the actual performance against set standards. Then taking corrective actions in case of any deviation. You can see each step precedes another. After setting standards, you measure the level of the actual performance. And now you compare actual performance against set standards. And after that, now, if there was any deviation, you take your corrective action. Methods of controlling. Feed forward control. Yes or no control, the screening. So we have steering, screening, feedback. I can see that there was a point they were asking this one. So these are some of the examinable areas. So they can ask you to explain. They can tell you to explain what is feed-forward control, or differentiate between feed-forward control and the post-action control or feedback, or the screening, yes or no controls. So steering stroke feed-forward controls. When we talk about steering stroke feed-forward controls, control directed towards the future. They are designed to detect deviations from some standards or goals to allow corrective actions. So designed to detect deviations from some standards or goals to allow corrective actions before implementation. Before. That is why in the brackets you can see we are saying before. So they detect deviations from some standards or goals to allow corrective actions before implementation of the activity. Before implementation. So they are directed towards the future. So they are directed towards the future. So steering stroke feed-forward control involves the following methods. So setting standards and defining objectives clearly. You set standards and define what we need to achieve in a clear manner. Feasibility studies. You do a feasibility study on the proposed activities to be undertaken. Establishment of steering committee. Establishment of the steering committee to steer the activities to be undertaken. We have budgeting to plan the resources required and control the future expenditure and proposed activities. Establishment of proper work procedures to direct the flow of the work or activity from the beginning to the end. Establishment of appropriate organizational structures to ensure that the activities will be effectively coordinated. Then we have appropriate organizational policies to provide guidelines for the implementation processes, rules and regulations to be followed to restrict the actions of managers and subordinates and ensure that the activities are implemented as organizational requirements. Forecasting to reduce the level of environmental uncertainty. Appointment of managers and supervisors. So number 2 was screening, yes or no controls, the during. So these are control systems that monitor the activities while in process. They monitor the activities while in progress. The control system that monitor activities while in what? In progress. So they are intended to detect deviations on, that is, in a timely manner, so that necessary actions are taken while implementation process is ongoing. Remember the first one was before the implementation. Now here, they do what? Detect deviations in a timely manner so that necessary actions are taken while implementation is doing what? Ongoing. It's during. So they are commonly used in manufacturing systems which implement automated controls during the manufacturing. Those controls put in place. So which are methods for screening? Methods of screening controls. So progress reports prepared on daily. So look at progress reports prepared on daily, weekly, monthly, or a quarterly basis. Managers and supervisors constantly monitoring the implementation process. Periodic reviews of performance through performance appraisal, periodic reviews. Establishment of checkpoints on the production process or in the course of undertaking an activity. So each system which requires that 3 managers must verify a document, e.g. a bank check. So you establish checkpoints. So internal audit systems also, very important. The computerized monitoring systems are applied in the production controls. So we'll be able to do what? To do a check during the progress. Meetings organized on daily, weekly, or monthly basis. Each management committee meetings to review performance. Remember, some companies they host meetings, let's say twice a week, so that everybody can be reporting on the progress of the work done. The progress of the work done. Then we have the feedback stroke post-action control. So after now, the after feedback stroke post-action controls. So this type of control is implemented after an activity has taken place. After an activity has done what? Taken place. It evaluates the result of an activity. Evaluate the result of an activity after it has been completed. So this is an after. Controls is implemented after an activity has taken place. So some of the methods of post-action controls: annual accounting reports, annual performance appraisal reports, external auditors report. Remember that like now an external auditors report. So it's done after the end of the financial year. Financial inspection of the finished goods before dispatch. Final inspection of the finished goods. Another report which is prepared upon the completion of the project. The after. The controls implemented after an activity has taken place. We have looked at some of the methods there. You can be able to remember a few during your exam time. So importance of controlling. Why do we do controlling? Importance of controlling. So achievement of set standards. So it directs behavior of employee towards goal achievement. So once there's good control, obvious, employees will be directed towards goal achievement. So control systems monitor performance and reinforce the behavior and activities of the desired by the management. Efficient utilization of the organization resources, that is through budgeting. It improves coordination of the organization activities. Improves coordination. So how? Control system will ensure that efforts of all members will be coordinated through standards, norms, budgets, and reporting systems, hence integration of organization activities. So managing uncertainty. Managing uncertainty. Ensure conformity to standards. They will ensure that there is conformity to standards. Conformity to standards. So how? Commercial banks have credit standards and regulations that loan officers use in issuing loans. For example, commercial banks have credit standards and regulations that loan officers use in issuing loans. So if these standards did not exist, each officer could use different standards. So once we are using an example of commercial banks. When they are issuing credit, there's regulations which loan officers use in issuing loans. So if there was no standards of that kind, remember that if this standard did not exist, each officer could use different standards of issuing loans. Like now, there's no that interest rate. Any bank cannot supervise the interest rate. So there's a bit of uniformity in the financial sector. Mhm. So here, drawbacks or limitations of controls. So some of the drawbacks or limitations of controlling. So time consuming, because there's too many procedures or monitoring systems that may affect the smooth flow of work, resulting into delay of goals accomplishment. A demoralized workforce. So too many control systems may lower work satisfaction or morale and the productivity. Because now these controls, it includes some checks which are carried out. So this one may demoralize the workforce, hence lowering the worker satisfaction. Less customer stroke client satisfaction. So dissatisfaction with too many procedures to be followed in an organization may send customers away. Discourages creativity. Employees will tend to focus on activities which strictly lead to goal attainment, because now they set standards. So you know that we are checking actual performance based on the set standards. So there's no creativity at all. Conflict between managers and subordinates. So managers who are very strict in enforcing controlling systems may affect negativity, the spirit. That is, managers who are very strict in enforcing controlling systems may affect negatively the team spirit and hence performance. Expensive to implement, very expensive to implement. Certain control systems, each computerized control systems, are very expensive to set up and train employees to operate them. So let's look at the directing function. So directing is the process in which managers instruct, guide, and oversee the performance of their workers to achieve predetermined goals. The process of doing what? Managers instruct, guide, and oversee the performance of the workers. Instruct, guide, and oversee the performance of the workers to achieve what? Predetermined goals. So directing initiates action, and it's from here that actual work starts. In field of management, directing is said to be all those activities which are designed to encourage subordinates to work effectively and efficiently. So process in which managers does what? Instruct, guide, and oversee the performance of the workers. Instruct, guide, and oversee the performance of the workers to achieve the predetermined goals. So we have said that directing initiates what? Directing initiates action. So characteristics of directing: pervasive function. So directing is required at all levels of the organization. Continuous activity. It's a continuous activity. Human factor. It's all about studying and modeling of human behavior. It initiates action. So once you are told to do this by let's say you are a senior person, you will do that in your organization. So by giving direction or instruction, the manager gets the work started. Delicate function. So directing is supposed to be a function of dealing with human beings. So human behavior is unpredictable. People are different by nature, and conditioning the people's behavior towards the goals of the enterprise is what the executive does in this function. So because you are trying to initiate an action, and who is supposed to do this? a manager to a subordinate. So therefore, it's time to have a delicacy in it to tackle human behavior. Some people are very difficult to be handled. Directing flows from top to bottom. Managers to their subordinates, that is. So directing process, you start with telling people what is to be done and explaining to them how to do it. That is, you initiate an action, issuing instructions and orders to subordinates to carry out their assignments as scheduled, supervising the activities, inspiring them to meet managers' expectations and contribute towards the achievement of the organization objectives, providing leadership. So, importance of directing, it initiates action, means of motivation. Yes, a manager makes use of the elements of motivation here to improve the performance of the subordinate. So this can be done by providing incentives or compensations, either in terms of monetary or non-monetary. So initiates action, means of motivation, coping up with the changes. It's the role of the managers to communicate the nature and contents of change very clearly to the subordinate. This helps in clarification, easy adoption, and smooth running of an enterprise. Efficient utilization of resources. So the resources can be utilized properly only when less of wastage, duplication of efforts, overlapping of performance, etc. do not take place. So efficient utilization of resources. So through the directing, the role of subordinates becomes clear. So there will be no wastage of resources. So instead, there will be efficient utilization of resources when there's a directive. Elements in directing, the four essential are communication, supervision, motivation, and leadership. Because now when you direct someone, you have to communicate in a good manner. So communication is basic organizational function, which refers to the process by which a person, the sender, transmits information, a message to another person, the receiver. The purpose of communication in an organization is to convey orders, instructions, or information so as to bring desired changes in the performance and or the attitude of employees. Why do we communicate? So we communicate, for example, to the subordinates to make sure that they understand their role clearly. It achieves coordination and a mutual understanding, which in turn leads to industrial harmony and increased productivity, improves managerial efficiency, help in molding attitudes and building up employees' morale. Communication is the means through which delegation and decentralization of authority is successfully accomplished. Another essential element is supervision. After employees have been instructed regarding what they have to do and how to do, it's the duty of the manager to see that they perform the work as per instructions. Duty of the manager to see that they perform the work as per instructions, so they must be supervised. The functions of a supervisor clarifies orders and instructions issued to subordinates. Clarifies orders and instructions. So he clarifies orders and instructions, ensure that they have to understand those instructions clearly. So the supervisor must ensure that the subordinates have the required facilities to perform their jobs, keeps a watch and guide the activities of subordinates, broaden the horizon of the subordinates by making them aware of the wide aspect of their day-to-day. Yes. So you need to make sure that these subordinates have a broad also of looking at issues in a general way. He coordinates the works of different subordinates, detects errors and omissions to ensure that there is rectification. Another one, we talked about motivation. Motivation, so it's a force that inspires a person. Remember that you can be given things like bonus, commissions, and other non-financial. So that one will be able to inspire you at work to intensify. So that person will intensify his willingness to use best of their capability of their achievements. So it can be incentives like financial or non-financial or non-financial. So importance of motivation. It makes once a person is well motivated, obviously there would be maximum utilization of the factors of production. Employees are motivated. So if employees are motivated, it will reduce employee turnover and absenteeism. Motivation fosters a sense of belongingness among the employees towards the organization and also improves their morale. It fosters a sense of belongingness. So it helps in reducing the number of complaints and grievances. With proper motivation techniques, management can attract competent and best quality employees. Let's say if the organization is remunerating its employees well, obvious, that one will happen. So we have the last one, which was leadership. So leadership is all about the ability to persuade and motivate others to work in a desired way for achieving the goal. So that's a person who is able to influence others and make them follow his instructions is called a leader. Ability to persuade and motivate others. For example, in an organization, the management decides to install some new machines to ensure the workers are resisting. However, one of the workers takes the initiative, explains to the fellow worker the benefits of working with the new machines and mold them to accept the management's decision. Now he is said to be a leader as he has to able to influence a group of workers who followed him. Yes, that is an example we are giving. So leadership is just the ability to persuade and motivate. That is the three words that are very important. Ability to persuade and motivate others to work in a desired way of achieving the goal. To work in a desired way to achieve the goal. So importance of leadership improves performance, build confidence, build employees' morale. That is it. That is it. So importance of leadership. So we have looked at controlling and what? Controlling and direct. Controlling and directing. Any questions so far? Meaning that we are done with topic 4. Meaning that we are done with topic 4. So topic 5 is environmental analysis. The environmental analysis. So remember that under environmental analysis, we analyze the environment in terms of what? In terms of macro and micro, micro and macro, internal environment and external. So under this is what to be covered. We look at micro and macro, internal environment, external environment, tools of environmental analysis, tools of environmental analysis. The tools of environmental analysis. So we have only 6 topics to be covered, meaning that on my case, I will be doing a topic for every session we see it. So meaning that maximum we need 6, I said 6 to 7 sessions to clear with the notes. That is why I was not using a lot of time to teach from time to time, because this is a very small unit. And the notes are very direct, by the way. You can see it for yourself. Just like now, if I go to macro here, these are some micro. This is something you will understand without difficulty. So what micro and macro means. So an organization or any business operates in an environment. So you need to understand the environment well. So like now, management environment refers to forces influencing organizational activities and the management decisions from within and outside. So there are things which will be affecting you internally and externally. So forces influencing organizational activities and the management decisions from within and outside. So in this chapter, we shall explore internal and external environment. So an integrated understanding of external and the internal is essential for the firm to understand the present and predict the future. Once you understand where you operate, remember, once you understand where you operate, you would be able to predict the future. Environmental analysis is a strategic tool. It's long term. It's a strategic tool. So let's stop at this point. I don't want to go into that topic. We pick from there, God willing, tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. I will be able to communicate if there will be another session tomorrow. Have a good day ahead. And make sure you go through the notes. These are just direct notes. These are just well simplified notes, which once you read, there's no difficulty. There's no difficulty in terms of understanding. Like now you know the industry. This one very common here. Industry, environment, industry. You know the pastel, right? So even this one is not to end. This is just one session. Like now, if we sit one session, we can cover topic 5 and 6. Yeah. Good day. See you tomorrow. God willing.